Good evening and welcome to the October 19th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Wynn, was the meeting posted?
Yes.
Number one on the agenda, please.
Meeting of minutes for September 28, 2017.
Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Howell. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number two, please.
Number two on our meeting agenda, application for a special one-day license to dispense wines only. Steve Syverson, the president of Arts League of Lowell, Inc., at 307 Market Street, for an artist reception on Saturday, October 28, 2017, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., and again, an artist reception on Saturday, January 20th, 2018, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
State your name for the record, please.
Steve Severson,
Steve, how are you tonight?
doing okay.
Good. Tell us about your events.
Same old thing, you know.
Same old thing?
It's more art. Try to get somebody to come over, you know. That's about it.
Perfect. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Move approval by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Steve, good luck.
Thank you.
You bet.
Commission, I'll take up the application for a special one-day license to sell, dispense all alcoholic beverages. Mark Claremont of Miracle Providers Northeast, Inc., for Friday, November 10th, and Saturday, November 11th, 2017, 7 p.m. to 12 midnight each day at the Onyx Room at 122 Western Avenue. There are charity cabaret shows to benefit the Miracle Providers Northeast Toy Drive.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Mark Claremont.
Mark, how are things?
Great.
Tell us what's going on with you.
This is our biggest cabaret show that we do every year. We got a $10,000 goal to buy toys. We have about 250 children this year to purchase toys.
Fantastic. Good for you. Questions, comments from the board?
Move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner Donahue, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Steve, always do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Proceeding with number four on our meeting agenda, we have a public hearing on the application by the applicant known as Warp and Weft LLC. Eric Faulkner is LLC manager for the transfer of the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license from the Vibe Lounge Inc., Steve Zagoras manager, for premises at 197 Market Street. It is requested that Craig Faulkner be approved as manager of record for Warp and Weft LLC. The following applications have been filed: common vitler application and an entertainment and a licensed restaurant for live music by Warp and Weft.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Eric Faulkner?
Sorry.
You go first.
Counselor, go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Pardo, and I represent Warp and Weft.
Craig Faulkner, Warp and Weft.
Hey, Craig.
Hi. Yeah, I'm still Eric Faulkner.
Hasn't changed.
Fantastic. All right, so Warp and Weft, we opened up a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken?
A little over a week ago. Yep, they're up and operating. I just want to say, first of all, that I'm very pleased to represent Warp and Weft here, and Eric and Craig and the other member of the LLC, Alyssa Faulkner. I think it's going to be a great addition to the downtown neighborhood. They've got some very responsible, respectful business people who are looking to really create a nice restaurant with a nice atmosphere in that area. I think that we all should be excited about what that means for what is literally stone's throw from my office, and hopefully someplace where everyone in this area of Lowell will frequent. So we are asking for a transfer of the beverages license from the Vibe Lounge Inc. to the Warp and Weft. And in addition, there will be one of the newest issues will be the live music that will be put on by the proprietors. So it's something that
What kind of music we're going to play?
I'm sorry?
What kind of music are we
I think
going
a variety of music.
Yeah?
I think Eric can answer that.
Tonight, we have an open mic night.
Commissioner McCarthy.
I'll be there. 9
Perfect.
o'clock.
And Friday night, we focus on local singers and songwriters, and then Saturday night, we cast a wider net.
Heard some great things already.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I'm glad to see an operation such as yours doing well in the city of Lowell. That's fantastic. I'm sure this board,
We appreciate that, thank you. Great
great.
support from the community.
all right. Secretary Wynn, all the paperwork in order, everything looks good. Questions, comments from the board?
I want to make sure I understand. We're giving an alcoholic beverage license and a common vitler and an entertainment.
From one manager to another.
Yeah.
Yep. What's your question?
I just want to make sure that it flowed the way I thought it did.
Okay.
I move approval.
You are correct, sir.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Krieger. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Donahue. Any further discussion?
I just have a comment. I want to thank you for the investment in the city.
Oh, my pleasure.
Fantastic. We wish you well. We
Best
really
of
do.
luck.
I may have jumped the gun. This is a public hearing.
Oh, I apologize.
You need to,
Yeah, we do. We have to open up a public hearing. Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, we open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this time, we'd like to open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Oh, sir, state your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Stephen Green. I reside at 181 Market Street, Unit 21, downtown, literally next door to the Warp and Weft. I want to heartily endorse them. I know Eric for many years, same resident in the building that I'm in, and Eric, who has just joined the building, is across the hall from me. So if there are any problems, they'll be the first to know about it. But having had dinner there last night, I think it's going to be a great asset.
How's the food?
It was very good.
Very good, excellent. How do we get the name Warp and Weft?
We wanted to say Mill City, but we wanted it to be hidden a little bit in plain sight. It's kind of like an Easter egg. So warp and weft are textile terms. And they describe the two directions that fibers run
Okay,
in a loom.
it's clever.
very well, very well. We have a
Best
motion.
of luck.
We have a motion by Commissioner Krieger, I'm sorry, and a second by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This board wishes you utmost success.
Thank you
All
very
right?
much.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
Thank you.
for
Seeing you
coming
guys.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Commissioner McCarthy will be there for open mic, so please get the Frank Sinatras ready there. All right.
Proceeding with our last item on the meeting agenda is the continuance of a matter to do with the pub crawl license from our last meeting, September 28th. Anticipated to be here would be organizers Nick Morano, Robert Johnson, and Mike Tetzi, doing business as What's Poppin' of Stoneham, for Saturday, October 28, 2017, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. for downtown Merrimack, Middle, Palmer, and Market Streets.
Thank you.
I would have expected the law office to be here also.
Well, that's a concern of mine, is that Secretary Nguyen brought this forward to the city council. It was referred back to the law department, and understanding that we would have needed they would have had to render a decision by now that we did not have. So unfortunately, we have to go to exactly the way the law is written, and we would not be able to tender a license to Pub Revolution and Bar 74 at this point, unless I would ask my fellow commissioners to chime in, but that's the way I'm looking at this point.
I agree with you. That's the way it's written, and until it's changed, there's not much we can do about it.
The thing is, you know, and maybe Captain Webb can chime in here a little bit. They may not have the permit or the license, but those kids are coming. And I'm a bit worried about that, is because now each of those establishments don't need to have the 3 police officer detail that we had asked in the amendment. And here we are, we're not letting them we're not giving them a license, but if we have 820+ something, you know, people out there, and what are they gonna do? Not let them in? And not, it's just an odd situation for me to kind of, Captain Webb, maybe you can give me some insight.
I think you're right, Mr. Chairman. I think at this point, they wouldn't be restricted from letting anybody in. They'd only have to pay attention to the numbers that they're letting in, make sure they don't exceed the occupancy load, and I would think they'd be prohibited from advertising anything to do with the pub crawl on their social media sites.
I'm wondering in the future when a pub crawl, you know, is scheduled that, and I'm not sure if there's any way to do this, but when a company such as What's Poppin' initially puts it on their website, you've basically opened it up to, you know what, this is gonna happen, and come as you may. I mean, here they are, you know, how many people are gonna go to Bar 74 in Revolution? just as many people as if they had the license or they didn't have the license, and I'm worried about that. So the ordinances, I understand what the city council was trying to do, but here we are, we have promoters that are already promoting before they even get a license, and that these 4 establishments are going to be the ones that are gonna be entertaining these students or 20-something. I mean, I'm a bit worried, Captain Webb. I mean, when last time Mr. Marino was here, if I'm not mistaken, the last pub crawl, we probably had about 700-800 people. He could be anticipating close to 1,000 to 1,200 patrons going inside the bars in the city. That worries me.
That's what he has for a number right there, 1,000.
So,
And I don't know if he's made any arrangements yet for,
let me ask you
diesel
this,
offices.
let me ask you this, has he contacted you?
He hasn't contacted me, no.
All right, let me ask the fellow board members, wasn't that part of the granting of the license that he would meet with the police department in order to grant this license?
Yes.
There were several stipulations that were made if they were granted, and they were supposed to, according to my memory, they were supposed to line up contacts with the police, among other things, and then all appear here tonight to get the licenses.
So once again, I wish legal counsel was here. What's our recourse? So they haven't done what they were supposed to do, is speak with Captain Webber or a designee. So did we actually grant the license last time? We did not. All right, so we don't grant the license. Is this not gonna happen? Of course it's gonna happen. Where are we at this?
I think my request is that the police department, obviously, if there are that number of people accumulating, will start having the police out, and I would ask they make note of any actions that show pub crawl activities, such as the wristband, a T-shirt, people being entered into different clubs with the wristband, and then I think that under the city ordinance, we'd have to consider action against each one of those clubs for failing to register and get a license for a pub crawl.
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. Let me just play devil's advocate with you. We have granted each of these establishments a license to be open from 8 in the morning to 2 a.m. the following day.
Yep.
So they're conducting business, be it a wristband or not a wristband. You know what? You're gonna turn down the money?
No, I understand that, but I think we can, or attempt to put it in the venue of a pub crawl by virtue of how their behaviors are, of the participants. You're right, anybody can go into any one of those 5 bars and do anything they want, but if they've collected a wristband, they've collected a T-shirt, I think it's showing that they are somehow participating in an activity, organized activity.
What is the Lowell Police Department's, what's the plan at this point? Obviously, they haven't, the promoters have not contacted you. How do you feel that you're gonna be able to patrol the downtown with everything going on that day?
Well, I think the police department would plan on having additional officers downtown at night on that particular weekend anyway, since it's the weekend leading up to Halloween. And traditionally, it's always a busy time for us downtown. So hopefully we would have adequate personnel on. And also, if you'd like, if you're not going to grant the licenses to these establishments tonight, I can make sure they're contacted beforehand and it's explained clearly to them that they're not to have a pub crawl that weekend.
I think that would be great, Captain.
That's what
Commissioner Howe, just because we have somebody with legal experience here, how does that work? I mean,
Well, I was going to suggest that. First of all, this is a rollout of a new ordinance that it's our first time using it. There was a problem with it. We sent it back. The fact that no one's here for that, I'm outraged by it because they knew it was a very important thing that we were trying to do, and now there are no shows. So my thought is, we're in a very precarious position. I think there should be some type of communication from either the License Commission or the Police Department stating that they did not get the pub crawl license and they are not to have the pub crawl.
I think the minutes are just a little ambiguous. I think I'm with you, but the minutes say, Commissioner McCarthy made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. The pub crawl organizer hires police detail for the event. So we're anticipating the event and directing the organizer to hire a police detail. And review of the matter be continued to the next regular meeting. So are we reviewing the question of Revolution and 74? Or are we reviewing the whole thing? I don't think it's clear, but I think that before we leave, we should be very specific about who should contact who. I believe we should contact the organizer of the pub crawl and the bars that are going to participate. They should all be contacted. The question is, what are we going to tell them?
If I may, Commissioner Donahue and Commissioner Howell bring up very good points. The restrictions on this was that the promoters were supposed to contact the Lowell Police Department with a plan for that day. That has not happened. That was one of the stipulations in granting this license. So, okay, we don't grant this license. It's all over social media. These 1,000 patrons will be coming downtown without a pub crawl license. Are we stopping these patrons from going into these establishments?
I don't think you can, Mr. Chairman.
Plus, at this point, we are absolving the organizer of responsibility.
Right.
Here we say, contact the police, hire X number of police details. If we throw this all out, we make that go away, and it all falls on the police department itself, and it's...
Captain Webb, at this point, has detail been asked by any of these establishments?
Not that I'm aware of. There could have been some discussion with the detail officer that I'm not aware of, but no one's mentioned it to me. And they probably, as far as the individual establishments go, they probably wouldn't have called this early for a detail, because the detail's not, usually not scheduled until a day or two before.
Or 2 days
any
before,
specific date.
2 days before the event?
And usually, say an establishment wants a detail on a Saturday, it's unlikely that they would call before maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of the preceding week. So I doubt they've called yet for something that's a couple of weekends in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should notify the promoter of the pub crawl that no license has been granted. And they were supposed to show up here tonight, and they didn't show up.
I
And
fully,
they haven't notified the police
I
department.
absolutely agree with you. I'm just wondering what the recourse is of the city of, we're not granting the license, but how do we stop patrons from coming downtown at this point?
You're not gonna do that.
You're not gonna do it.
You're not gonna do that.
But, so we don't grant a license, so in the future, this happens again. Where does the ordinance actually come into play here?
In the
You're getting
future,
paid by the hour, Commissioner House.
well, in the future, hopefully, we'll have a clarification of the ordinance, and it'll give us discretion, and we'll issue the license that night. I think, again, we're in a precarious position because we were unable to issue the license to those two providers. But my recollection of the night is that I'm not sure if there was an approval of the license for the other entities, and that the issue for Bar 74 and Revolution, we held in abeyance. I know the minutes don't reflect that, but I think the pub crawl is going to happen whether we issue a license or not, and then if there's an incident or if there's an issue with the police, then they're going to be before us for violation of the ordinance. They didn't get the pub crawl license, or even if we issued the license, they violated it.
If I recollect from our last meeting, Commissioner Donnie, didn't you make the motion that we would give the license to the other three? Ryan, do you remember that at all, or we did not
No,
grant the license?
the discussion really came to a focus when Captain Webb spoke of the matter that where a licensee has been, within the past year, had a suspension, would be precluded from being a participant in a pub crawl. It's the organizer who is to apply for the license. The licensed establishments, if any one of them is a potential participant and has had a suspension, based on the ordinance as it is now, that licensee cannot be a participant of the pub crawl. So what you have, the latest promotion that's being offered out in social media, Facebook by What's Poppin', is suggesting that the establishments is yet to be determined. That's a change in the format they used initially when it was identifying the establishments Dudley's, Blue Shamrock, Village Smokehouse, Bar 74, and Revolution. They've changed that. So now it's open-ended. It's much to say, we can't tell you what establishments will be identified with this pub crawl. So there's a certain thinking involved with the way it's been drafted and written. So that no licensee can say, we are identified as part of the pub crawl. And I think there's a method to their madness in this regard. I think, quite frankly, members of the commission, What's Poppin' has created a scam, and utilizing the naive young men and women who look to this type of thing for entertainment on a Saturday afternoon, what better thing to do than to come into Lowell and go down to Village Smokehouse and have a few beers?
And sell a bunch of T-shirts. They got-
Mr. Chairman, my recollection is pretty close to yours, and one of our possible cures for this situation, because we need details, is to go on the assumption that we agreed that 3 of the establishments could be a pub, a pub crawl. We reach out to What's Poppin' and say, you need to have those 9 detail members, and you need to make sure people understand they can't go to Revolution in 74.
I do understand what you're saying, but I just want to go back to what Commissioner Donahue said in our last meeting, was that these organizers were supposed to meet with the Lowell Police Department. They did not do that. How can we grant them a license? Can somebody help me out with that?
And they didn't appear tonight.
I'm just,
So,
okay, so, all right, scenario 1, let's say we don't grant them the license. Secretary went between either the License Commission Department or the Police Department. I mean, at this point, just to protect the safety of the city, should we reach out to the participants who would be able to be granted a license? What is their plan for security for that night? Because unfortunately, their organizers did not do their due diligence and come here for the license and work with Captain Webb and/or his designee. Can we reach out to these establishments saying, because I don't want the Lowell Police Department to say, well, there's no detail, because we're not meeting here again until after this event. So what happens if a couple of days before, no details are asked by any of these establishments? I believe that the safety of the citizens of Lowell and the patrons is compromised at that point. We have no police detail. I understand that Captain Webb will have, obviously, the regular detail that we have, but if these establishments do not need to spend the extra money for security, I mean, they're not bound to. They have no license. There's no pub crawl, per se. I'm just,
Mr. Chairman, I was told that Dudley's we're gonna have a police officer, hire a police officer for inside and outside.
Is that a definite? Do we know that? Now, they
I
were the
was-
ones that are gonna get, they're part of the license, supposed license, but there's no license.
That's correct, but I was told they were gonna have for the event, they were gonna hire a police officer for inside and one for outside too, since,
I'm not even sure if that's enough, Captain Webb, for that capacity inside and outside at Dudley's? Is that what they usually have?
They usually have one, sometimes two.
Two, right? Outside, both inside and outside? What's the capacity, Ryan, for the outside at Dudley's? Do you know?
If you give me a second, I have some information. So what I have here, I'll give to you, Mr. Chairman, is the
You can just tell me.
certificates of inspections.
Yep.
Issued for the calendar year 2017. With respect to the Village Smokehouse, their first floor capacity is 317. They also have another place on the first floor for 402. So they could have over 700 people in their establishment. The Blue Shamrock on the first floor has an occupant load, which is the maximum number of individuals, is 219 on the first floor. The second floor allows for 180. Dudley's is somewhat of a maze. You have the front bar identified as on the first floor, an occupant load of 250. They have a rear bar on the first floor that's identified as 83. They also have an outside courtyard, which allows for 286 on the first floor. Bar 74, which is a first floor only, has 164. That's the first floor. The business known as Revolution on the third floor has an occupant load of 456.
Okay, all right. I still think at this point, even though the organizers aren't here, and I'm not sure if we even should make an attempt to contact them, but maybe contacting the manager of records for these establishments that are supposed to be holding these events, that what is their plan at this point? And I think that needs to be communicated to Captain Webb in the Lowell Police Department, so as a city, we're ready for anything that may or may not happen. I really think it's incumbent upon us to make that decision. Is that something that should come from your office, Ryan, or should that come from the Lowell Police Department?
Well, I can, obviously, given what you've discussed this evening as a public meeting, and that the licensees could very well be here to voice their point of view. Now that they're not here, I will communicate to the board, to the members of the,
To the manager of
to
records?
the various licensees,
Yeah,
that the commission is not authorizing a pub crawl for the organizer,
right.
and that any management of crowd is your responsibility. You're advised to have a detailed presence, police detail. You're also advised to be very mindful of the fact that you have an occupant load that may not be exceeded for public safety reasons.
Not to cut you off, but are they required? You just said required to add police detail. They're
No,
not
they're
required.
not required to have police detail.
Right. So that's my worry is, because I want to make sure the police department understands if there is not enough detail at these establishments, that we may need to bring other police officers near that area so we can keep the peace. That's what I'm worried about, maintaining enough security there.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'd like to suggest that as our executive secretary goes about this, that he keeps us informed so that if we as individuals do not feel that this is under control by, say, Tuesday or Wednesday, we can request an emergency meeting on Friday, meeting somewhere and see what additional action we think we might want to take.
Your point's well taken. I do appreciate that. I guess I'm kind of leaving it in the hands of Captain Webb, because if he feels comfortable with the detail that they may or may not have, then fine. But I just want to make sure that, you know, we're covered as a city. You know, if they don't have the detail that we feel that is necessary, I mean, I don't want to put us in a situation where there's 1,000 people on the streets of Merrimack Street and we don't have any police detail there. And that's what happened last time. We didn't have enough detail because they didn't ask for enough detail. So I just don't want to get caught in that same situation. This pub crawl business it's a different breed to me, and, you know, so with social media. I mean, I have a difficult time trying to understand where we have an ordinance that we may or may not give a license to, when in fact, if we don't, guess what? They're still coming. How do you stop that, and how do you patrol that, and how do we govern?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject.
Go right ahead, Ryan.
One thing is made perfectly clear in what's Poppin's promotion, is that the Village Smokehouse is the site to pick up your T-shirt, if you don't already have one,
2 to 5, right? Yep.
for the pub crawl.
Yeah.
Possibly if having a police presence, a police cruiser or some presence there, 1 or 2 officers, to let it be known, or at least their presence there is to the, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but whether that would have some effect to keep or somewhat intimidate the participants to not get too carried away with themselves with the...
To be quite frank, Ryan, I'm not too concerned about the Village Smokehouse. That's the first stop on the tour. I'm worried about 8, 9, 10 o'clock when we've been to 4th establishment, and, you know, how do we have enough detail at those places? The smokehouse is, God, if I was gonna be part of a pub crawl, I wanna be the #1 stop. Absolutely. You know, here's your T-shirt, have 1, maybe 2, and you're off. They've made their money, they're gone. Now we start getting into deeper, you know, now we're getting into 3 beers, 4 beers, 5 drinks, 6 drinks. And you're the last stop on that pub crawl. I'm telling you, that's not a good place to be. And especially if they don't have to have enough police, if they're not by license, they have no license, and you have 1,000 people that want to get into that last stop. And you know what, you've had a few in you, this is not a recipe for success in my mind in the city. It really is not.
Mr. Chairman, if we do not grant the license, or pretend that we've granted a license, can we not then confiscate the T-shirts because they are part of an unauthorized pub crawl? That might put a damper on things.
Well, I agree with that, but I also think that there should be some way to stop the promoter from having people sign up for this. He has no license to do it. So when he shows up at the smokehouse, he should not be allowed to sign up these people with his T-shirts and stuff.
Well,
He has no license.
once again, if the manager of record or the owner of that establishment says, okay, yeah, good, sell T-shirts. Maybe give me $2 for every 10 that you sell. Who's to say that we can't let him do that?
He hasn't got a license.
Well, he sells them as his own wares. I'm just playing devil's advocate with the commissioner. I don't know where else to go with this.
I think a letter should be written to the promoter and to the bars that were in here last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Stating that no license has been granted, and as far as we're concerned, they're on their own.
Okay. That's a form of a motion. Do I have a second on that?
I'll give you a second.
Second, Commissioner Krieger. Further discussion on the motion.
I think that one of the things that should happen is that our executive secretary should send a letter to the law office asking for an immediate answer to the question of, can we confiscate? Can the police department confiscate? I
Captain
don't
Webb?
think I'm tough enough to do it myself.
Attaboy. Captain Webb?
Well, I think if the commission chooses not to grant this license, we can communicate that to, in this case, the Village Smokehouse, and say the check-in spot, and let them know that no licenses have been granted, they're not to participate in any pub crawl activities, including having any type of check-in or passing T-shirts or wristbands out or anything like that. And if they do that, they'll have to answer to you for that at a future date.
I agree with you, Captain.
Agreed, 100%.
Commissioner Donahue, anything further?
I think that the police shouldn't get into confiscating anything. I think that wouldn't be a good idea, that alone. But I'm reading the ordinance, and in order to hold a pub crawl, and it skips down, at least 30 days prior to holding any pub crawl event, an organizer must obtain a pub crawl license. We did not grant a license to
Right.
the organizer. So
Correct.
I feel that there was no actions given to approve any pub crawl at the last meeting. The fact of the matter is, the organizer has not done what's expected of him. There was discussion of the facts that you should be getting police. We expected certain conditions to be met. But no one's here. The organizer is not here. As far as I'm concerned, there's no license been requested, and we're not issuing a license.
Understood. Okay, we have two matters, I'm sorry, Commissioner McCarthy.
I agree with you, Commissioner, but I think we need to give them something in writing.
Right. All right, we have two matters here. First, is there a motion that we deny the license?
Oh, wait, we have a motion on the floor?
There was a motion on the floor.
Well, I'm going to get to that motion, but first, are we going to, first, we deny the license, and then there should be a letter to the establishments that a license was not granted. Should we make that in form of one motion or two motions?
Two.
Two? Okay, so we'll make a motion by Commissioner Donahue, second by Commissioner Howe, that we do not grant the license for the pub crawl to any of the establishments. Okay? Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Second motion by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Krieger, that a letter be sent to each of the establishments stating that such, we did not grant the license to any of the establishments,
And the promoter also.
and the promoter as well. All right. That was seconded by Commissioner Krieger. Any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Howe?
Should there be something in that letter that states that the reason why, because they failed to appear and they failed to follow through with the police, and also that a warning that there should be adequate security?
I'm not sure if we need to amend that, but please include that in the letter. In the letter, Ryan, okay? What Commissioner Howe just stated, those facts, that there was no organizer here who was supposed to be present, and that,
They were to meet with the police.
and that there was no meeting with the Lowell Police Department. Thus, the license was not granted, just so they understand where they're at and where we're at.
We have no control. We know people are gonna show. We
Right.
have no
But
control
we
over
should
that.
tie that to the social media that's already been out there. In light of the fact that this has been announced in social media, we believe it behooves you
Right.
to provide additional security.
I would still like that communication, yeah, that's an excellent point. Plus, we would want to touch base, Captain Webb, with these establishments, just, send a designee over there, what's your plan? Just so you know, we don't get caught with our pants down here on this, I really don't. I'm worried about that, I'm really worried about, if we had 800 people last time, now we could potentially talk about 1,200, 1,300, that's a lot of people downtown Lowell. We got to protect our citizens down there.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. We'll contact the establishments and, as you suggest, talk to them about their plans. We'll have adequate people down there that night, and we'll also work with the fire department. Sometimes we can have a deputy fire chief on duty with us, and if any of these establishments violate the occupancy load, we can shut them down for the rest of the night.
Very well, good, excellent.
Maybe we
good.
should mention, No, I'm sorry, no paraphernalia to be handed out.
I think that's key.
No T-shirts, no wristbands, no
If you could include that.
ankle rings.
Include that into the letter as well, Ryan, what Commissioner McCarthy and Commissioner Krieg have just stated, that no paraphernalia should be sold during the smokehouse time, which is 2 to 5. The license was not granted, therefore there should be nobody selling their wares at that time. Okay? If you could possibly too, before you send that letter out to everybody, could you send it to the commission, just so we can take everybody can kind of say yay or nay on it? I'd like to make sure everybody agrees with the letter that's going to be sent out. Everybody agree?
Agreed.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on the second motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner McCarthy.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be helpful if, when the police are talking to the smokehouse, to let them know that they should not let this promoter set up any kind of a table or anything to sign people up for this pub crawl, because there is no pub crawl.
Absolutely, I'll have that discussion with
Thank you,
them.
Captain.
Very well. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Everyone have a great evening.
Wait, we just had someone show up.
He's the promoter.